Jerry.
Yes, sir.
It's your inaugural episode. How do you feel?
Feel great.
Wow. No more enthusiasm than that, huh?
No, I'm just preparing and doing my thing. But welcome, everybody.
There you go. Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of Loud and Nerdies that came from Jerry's basement with special guests, actor, writer, director, Drew Godderis, who we'll have on in just a moment. Such an amazing human being. It's going to be a lot of fun this evening. First off, we always have to do a little housekeeping. Everybody knows that. We got to give a shout out to our brother, director, writer, actor, Terry Gerald, who is the owner of Black Dog Films. Going to be shooting this in Florida soon. So everybody go to Harlow's Haunt on Facebook and all the socials. We greatly appreciate it. And I think that is about it. There's a few comments here. There is Raven. Hi, Raven. Thank you for joining us. Good evening, friends.
What's
Hello, up? Ken.
Ken?
Did we find out Joe's the father? What? Huh? Okay, I'm a little confused now.
Me too.
So,
it's all good.
So, without further ado, let's bring on our guests again. Actor, director, writer, producer. I mean, so many titles. It's amazing. Hi, Cindy. Let's bring him in. Mr. Drew Godderis.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us this evening, Drew.
How are you, sir?
Doing well, guys. And I was just thinking, instead of Ben and Jerry's, maybe it could be Joe and Jerry's. What do you think?
There you go.
A spinoff, right? What do you think? Huh?
Ice cream, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, thank you for the invite, and pleasure to be here with you nice gentlemen, and hope everything's going well in your lives.
And you as well. You as well. So we've got a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a pretty good career over the years. I did a lot of research.
An amazing career.
Yeah, I did a lot of research beforehand. Some of the films that you've been in, I've seen way back. I had to go back and watch again.
Oh, thank you.
Some I thought I had here in my collection, and it turns out I didn't. And I was kind of upset over that. I did have.
Oh, yeah, I can vouch for that because he said that he thinks he loaned it to somebody and never got it back.
Yeah. Well, and what I did find, because I do have a bin of like those movies that I recorded off of HBO and Cinemax back in the day, we'd get them for free, right?
Okay.
On a weekend so I still have one of those, and the one right in the center says Blood Diner.
Pull it up. There you go. Do it
Which
again.
Which one is that? Oh, Blood Diner.
Diner.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's probably one of the more notable films. There was a very interesting experience going on with that. Jackie Kong, who's got quite a history of directing movies at a very young age. He's just a fantastic director, and I credit her with allowing me to kind of create that character myself, that Uncle Anwar. She had enough confidence in me to let me roll with it, and especially being on a restricted budget. I think it was $400,000 if I'm not mistaken, and which was an amount of money, but obviously you had to be watched very carefully. So. And marvelous crew and so forth. So yeah, but that was an interesting role. I can still do the voice today.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
about the voice, because when I was watching it, after so many years of not seeing it, and I watched it again, I didn't realize when I was younger, like how funny some of the things are in that film. Like some of the things that you say in particular.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask if those were they scripted? Did you write those lines or?
Yeah, there was some of that, and then there was also a lot of just improvisation. The accent I came up with, I thought that I'm pretty good with voices. I mean, I can do quite a few accents, speaking English sort of a thing. And in my mind, Egyptian, which I thought the character probably represented, or somewhere in that area, that would have been the kind of voice that you would kind of hear. So that came into my mind, and then it kind of worked from there. So yeah, that was a fun role.
Yeah, I cracked up because like just the lines like, if I had a schlong, I'd show you the meaning of machismo, or
Yeah. Well, the fact that
it's just hilarious.
the fact that Lionsgate picked it up is a testament not only to the ability of Jackie Kong, but also to it was a well-made movie, and that and I was fortunate enough to be asked to do a little promo for them. That's still on YouTube, if you can believe, since 2016 for Lionsgate when they took it over. I got a call from Jackie Kong, the director, and say, would you be interested in doing a promo for us? And the darn thing's still on. I think it's about 30 or 40 minutes. I'm sorry, 35 or 40 seconds where I was interviewed and for the Lionsgate acquisition. So, I was appreciative of that as well. So yeah, it was a fun role.
Yeah, I think over the years it's gained quite a cult following.
I think so.
Really. I
She
mean,
still
back
takes it
then there
around
was
and-
a lot of competition in horror in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Especially. But
Yeah.
definitely everybody seems, especially a guy like me, right? I mean, I tend to start looking back. What did I miss, or what haven't I seen in a long time? And we're the collectors out there. So
she still screens it. She goes around and does presentations and screens a 35 millimeter print, and has been quite successful with it. So more power to her. Also, I have to give a big shout out to a couple of other people. One guy is Donald Farmer, who did Cannibal Hookers, and has just had a wonderful career making movies, and still at it, as a matter of fact, 40 some odd years. And then also Fred Olin Ray, who was nice enough to put me in Evil Spawn and in a Deep Space, and he's now, I believe, directing movies for the Hallmark Channel down in Florida. So he's had a quite a spectacular career as well. Unlike me, my career was such that I was fortunate enough early on to be able to have a few of these roles offered to me that were minor, and then but I then transitioned into, I was doing more episodic television stuff at the time when I had to stop. My wife died, and it's a long story, but then I had to be responsible and take care of my son, and so I couldn't travel and do those other things. But that, I'm happy to have done that. So I guess I was lucky enough to have some very interesting roles within a short period of time working. And by the way, anybody out there, they want to hire me, I'm still available. I may be old and look like the Crypt Keeper, but I could probably still do something. So
we've got a couple of comments here. We've got seen Blood Diner at the drive-in theater. 35 millimeters always a great time.
That's
Oh,
excellent.
yeah.
I wish I was there.
And then we got Jamie Hill. Hold on one second for me. Jamie Hill. Drew, did you ever see the movie Skinamarink that came out a couple of years ago? It was one of the highest grossing. It's one of the highest grossing independent horror films right now. And Jamie Hill was one of the stars of that movie.
Wonderful. I'll make sure that I mark that down. Unless could you spell that for me, please?
Skinamarink?
Skin S-K-I-N.
In my condition right now, maybe not.
I think there's two N's in it. S-K-I-N.
Well, I'll just put Jamie Hill's name in there, and
M-A-R-I-N-K, I believe.
Okay. And and Jamie's last name is Hill, right? H-I-L-L?
Correct.
Yeah, I'll mark that down and check that out. Sure, that would be great. But listen, guys, I'm blessed, and I'm so fortunate to have been able to do the things that I wanted to do, and to follow that passion, and I guess with that, I'll let you.
Yeah, I was doing some of the research on some of the things. I know that you had some parts in different shows as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I saw something about Cagney and Lacey and Sledgehammer.
I was also on an episode of America's Most Wanted. It was kind of an interesting little. I think Joe knows that story, and I was mistaken for the real guy in Las Vegas, and was having some lady saw me at a casino there at 2:00 in the morning, and decided to reach out to the Metro Las Vegas Police Department. A couple of detectives a few minutes later tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come with them, and I did. And they thought I was the real guy. The lady blurred the lines, but it was very, very interesting how things happened. But yeah, that's the stuff that I went on to just prior to my wife's death. I had kind of transitioned a little more into the kind of TV episodic arena, and it was fun, but hard work as well. So yeah, no, there was a number of different things, and so I am very. I'll tell you an interesting story. How I got my Screen Actors Guild card, it was, I believe, in 1986. I was an extra on a set where they were doing a Channel 2, which was the CBS affiliate in Los Angeles. They were doing a commercial to run on their network for a new anchor coming to town. Her name was Penny Griego, who I think has since retired, and this was 86. So they were doing a promo with her. And the scenario was there was a building burning, and then she, as a reporter, was walking down with a microphone in her hand, kind of talking about the building in background burning. And there were a number of extras there, including myself. There were some that were dressed as paramedics. There were others dressed as firemen, and there were some dressed as cops. Well, I was in a fireman's outfit, and the director singled me out and said to the assistant director, the second AD, "Hey, get that young guy over there and put him in a paramedic's uniform." So that the shoot was being held up, and so they changed me into that, and I came out, and she took a look at me and she said, "No, put him in a cop's uniform." So I'm saying to myself, what's going on here? I'm just a lowly extra. I mean, why are they keep shuffling me around? Well, as it turned out, the director wanted me on camera being interviewed by this new anchor that had just come to town. And so here I'm walking along with her. We're looking at the burning building, and she's asking me questions, this reporter, and I'm kind of making up stuff about it. And because of that, the production company paid it was called, I think, a Taft-Hartley, where you get in because you had a few lines, and they paid for the fee to get me in the Screen Actors Guild. So I thought that was kind of cool. How about that?
That's excellent. Yeah, I was going to ask you how you got started in all of this. I mean,
That's
how did you get
was.
started in acting?
Well, I got started as an extra, like so many other people. I was pretty successful in getting an agent. Matter of fact, what I did is I figured out, look, at that point in time, you had headshots that you had to have, made, and then you would send them out to different casting directors and studios and so forth. And quite often they would end up in the proverbial round file, the garbage thing. But I decided what I needed to do was to approach agents with the thing like, look, you can make money with me. I will go ahead and get my own headshots made up, and I will deliver them to you, and I will pay for the postage for you to actually send them out to the different casting people so that they wouldn't have to bear that expense. So based on that seemed to work. And then I found a guy, I believe he might still be in business or recently retired. He's up in his 80s if he is. His name was Jack Scagnetti. And he had the Jack Scagnetti Agency, which was on Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood. And he was gracious enough to say, sure, we can work that kind of a deal. And as a result of that, that's how I got the America's Most Wanted and all the rest of that stuff.
You were a dream client.
Well, I think, I believed at that point in time, the way to just do it was to just do it, because when you're passionate about something, generally what happens is the universe works with you. It doesn't mean you won't have struggles as you're going along, but eventually, if you keep your nose to the grindstone, something usually pops. And I was very lucky because it popped on really my first job. I mean, how often does a person get into it was either Screen Actors Guild, it might have been AFTRA. No, it was Screen Actor. Was it after a Screen Actors Guild? I think I became eligible for the Screen Actors Guild, but they paid for my entrance into AFTRA, which are now all one union. AFTRA and SAG are now one, so that's, I think, how it worked. And that was like an $800 to get in. And instead of making, on that commercial that I was telling you about, instead of making $50, which was what I would have made as an extra, I got paid $650, which was a union rate for that. So not bad,
Nice.
Not too bad for getting pointed out of a crowd, right?
Absolutely. Well,
I got to ask the audience something real fast. We're trying to experiment tonight. We're broadcasting for the first time tonight to Instagram. Can somebody in our audience please confirm whether they're seeing us live on Instagram or not? I know we're on YouTube and Facebook. We're trying Instagram for the first time. So if anybody could let us know, I'd appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt, gentlemen.
Great. Well, this is
so
great.
how did you end up with the Blood Diner gig?
That's an interesting thing. If I'm not mistaken, I think Fred Olin Ray, the gentleman who's the director and well-known guy, I believe he was instrumental in he knew somebody, I believe, that was associated with the Blood Diner, maybe one of the producers. I think maybe the guy's name was Jimmy Maslon, Masslon, or he might have known Jackie Kong, I'm not sure. But I believe, to the best of my recollection, that there was a referral from him to Jackie Kong. I went over and auditioned for Jackie, and I got it right away. So I was pleased about that. So I believe he was instrumental, and he then also gave me a very small part in Deep Space. But the Deep Space was a SAG movie, so I made $600 or $700 for my time there. And also the Blood Diner was a SAG movie, so I made union rates there too. So that was pretty good for a young up and coming actor that wanted to get his feet wet and obviously make a little money at the same time. So so I believe it was Fred Olin Ray.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about Fred and your relationship with him, because I know he did Deep Space, but he did Evil Spawn too, right?
Correct.
And you were
right.
you were involved with those.
Yes, I was.
So how did you establish that relationship with him?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I went for a casting call, and Fred had an office, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was in the CNN building in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard. Very gracious, and just a real down-to-earth guy. And I remember talking with him, or I'm not 100% sure, but I know that he was a very approachable guy, and the first thing I liked about him is that he was very nice and a kind of a humble guy. And as I say, he was nice enough to put me in Evil Spawn, that was, I believe, a joint production. There was also another gentleman by the name of Frank Brzee, whose wife was Bobby Brzee, the actress, who was in Surf Nazis Must Die or something like that. And she had an instrumental role in acting in that movie as well. So I believe that's how that came about. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory doesn't fail me, that the entree into the Blood Diner thing came as a result of Fred's introduction there.
I have a couple images here. I guess I don't know how to end them.
Yes. Yep.
I'm new to this whole StreamYard control thing here.
Yes. That Evil Spawn picture I was unaware of until
there you go.
Not that long ago, and that was taken probably in '87 on the set of Evil Spawn, and we shot that up at Frank Brzee's house, Frank and Bobby Brzee's house up in West Hollywood. That particular scene, and I played a reporter, I believe, by the name of Ross Anderson, that was a friend of Bobby's character. So that was interesting. But yeah, that's an interesting picture, And,
yeah, I enjoyed it. I watched that probably about 2 weeks ago. I mean, again, I had seen it when I was younger, because I was in our local video store. I still remember our rental number, but I can't remember much else. But I remember that.
I think I was a little over dramatic in that particular portrayal. I think that I was still not 100% steeped in the ability to kind of act natural, and I was a little nervous. So I think I maybe was a little wooden, but that's okay, because maybe that lent to the character, or to the movie itself. I don't know.
So I've got an actual question, because I'm sorry to interrupt, Jerry.
No,
excuse me. We have actors, new actors that watch our shows, and so one question that kind of comes up is, between movies and television series, which one is hurry up and wait more for an actor? Which are you spending more time in a chair just waiting around?
I think, in all honesty, that depends on the director involved and the project. I think that each director has a different operating basis. In the time when I was doing that, and this was mid to late 80s, because in 80 I got out of it in '88. It was television shows. There seemed to be a lot more focus on getting the shots set up right, because but it really did depend on the director. For instance, I worked with Bill Bixby in one particular. I think it was, what was the name of that show? There was a cop that was a comical cop, and he had kind of a crew cut. David Rashid was his name, but I don't remember what his character was, and he played kind of a comical. No, it wasn't Hunter. Hunter was different. This was a comical. It wasn't Sledgehammer. Was it Sledgehammer?
Sledgehammer was another one.
Sledgehammer was the big tall guy with the blonde crew cut. Is that correct? That's David Rashid.
That sounds right. It's been a long
Right.
time, but yeah.
Okay, and who directed that episode was Bill Bixby. Now, Bill Bixby, if you remember him, he was in My Favorite Martian. He did.
Hey, Drew, can you see that comment right now?
What's the comment?
Can you see it?
Oh, hi, Dave. How are you, David? I can't. Sledgehammer. Was it Sledgehammer?
Yeah,
okay, it was Sledgehammer.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. I love you too, buddy. You're a great guy and with a real nice family. That particular thing was directed by Bill Bixby, and Bill Bixby was just a wonderful human being, and he had a way with actors because he came from that area before he became a director. You have to understand, in that time frame in the 1980s, a lot of the people that were directing TV shows were traveling directors. Guys like James Darren, who directed an episode of Hunter, who was a former actor. I believe he was in T.J. Hooker, if I'm not mistaken, and Route 66, if I'm not mistaken as well. Guys like that would contract to direct a particular show. So it would be like a week shoot to do an hour episode, right? 5 days. And some were better than others. Some had different operating bases. Bill Bixby was wonderful. I saw Bill Bixby working with some extras, and instead of castigating them or giving them a hard time because they didn't do something according, to perfection and, according to his standards or whatever, he would go over and talk with them, put his hand on their shoulder and direct them to, well, maybe you could do it a little more like this, put a little more of this into it, or emotion. So getting back to your original question, it depends, I think, on the director involved and the producer involved. If there's a rush to get something done under budget, let's say you're in a motion picture situation, well, then, they want to move it quick. So they may overlook some things, the directors, right? Whereas in a TV show that's going to air once a week and it's a series, well, they want to make darn sure that they don't compromise the quality of that production, and therefore they might take longer to set things up. So it's all individual. Yeah.
Never make Bill angry. You wouldn't like him angry.
No, I'll tell you what, there was one director. I was in a movie and I didn't have any lines in it. It's when I first started out. It was called 52 Pickup. And that was a movie with Roy Scheider and I believe Ann Margaret. And we shot that down on Skid Row in Los Angeles. I had no lines. I was just an extra in the background sitting in a bar stool, and upon cue, I was supposed to get up and walk across the room. And John Frankenheimer, who did, what did he direct? He directed all kinds of different things, was an unhappy man. And not to say that he was a bad man, but he was really wired tightly. And if for one reason or another somebody didn't do something exactly the way he had it, his voice would go up and his blood pressure would go up and his face would get red. So he had a different operating basis completely, you see. So that's, whereas Jackie Kong, right, is a good example. Jackie Kong is a very, just my recollection was she was very understanding, very professional insofar as, here's what I'd like, but by the same token, I think very understanding and would allow somebody to improvise and do things that they thought might lend to it. So she had a trust factor that she was able to, convey to people that I trust you. I think you can do this. Let's give it a shot.
Nice.
Yeah. So everyone's different in that respect. When I directed my thing, when I directed my Academy or non-Academy Award winner, let's call it what it is, LAH.
That's what I was going to transition to.
Oh, okay.
I was going to get right into that. Works right into going into directing yourself, right?
I let the actors basically find their own place within the scenes. So I tried to ask them, I would dialogue with them. What is it about you that you can relate to the character? What can you bring to it? And what do and asking for suggestions. Because if you can incorporate what the actor wants or what the actor believes that the character is and how they would relate to that, if you can get some of that personal stuff in there, then you've got it, you've got it made. So my philosophy is that with a lot of actors, if they start thinking of what emotion has to come up when the emotion comes up, and and even if it's not the right emotion for the scene, let's say maybe it's supposed to be a serious dramatic scene, but they think there's something comical about it. Well, a lot of actors, method actors, guys that have studied for years, they will, if a different emotion comes up, they will just lay the line on top of it. But because it's a real emotion coming up from them, it plays in the scene, and the line on top of it is 100% believable. So that's why sometimes you'll see actors react in a certain way to another actor when they're listening to them, and instead of responding the way that the script does, sometimes they'll just respond in a way that feels natural to them, and they put that line on top, and it's really believable, and the audience buys it that way, you see. So yeah,
it's excellent.
Interesting. Everyone's different,
So
yeah.
this film that you directed,
Yeah,
it had two different titles. Now I did not personally see this film way back when.
right.
I saw this recently, though. I had to watch it because I am a connoisseur.
The reason for the titles is I was scared.
It was called Jabber First, right? And I have a picture of that. Joe's going to help out.
Which is the original. And that, by the way, was a very expensive box to have made. I had to spend $1,800 to have boxes made on that, because back then it was quite a process to create something. And then I had to have hundreds of VHS tapes duplicated before I was able to release it. And as I say, the venue that I only really had to release it to was home video, because of the quality of it, number one, and number two, it's not something that I think HBO would have had interest in airing, and they were probably the only other place where I could have put it out. So I was scared to release it under the title L.A. Age Jabber, and the reason for that was
a picture of that here too, just for reference.
This is the re-release. I was a little concerned about releasing it under that name because of the pandemic. My whole idea for making this movie was not to have it be a thing where a guy is just crazy going around. I didn't want to be exploitative. What I wanted to do is, because I figured I'm not acting anymore, I'm doing the right thing, I'm taking care of my son, trying to raise him, I wanted to keep my foot in the thing. So when I wrote the script, I was writing it at a donut shop every day until I got the script, and then I figured, what can I do to be controversial enough to get people's eyeballs open and say, what is this about? L.A. Age Jabber? But when the film camera broke and I had to go continue shooting the entire thing in video or not, I decided, okay, I don't want to release it to home video under the name L.A. Age Jabber. That might be over the top. But if I use Jabber with a needle on the front, that might invoke enough curiosity from people where they'd look at it and say, what's this about? It looks a little interesting. So that was the reason for that. But what Rob did at Wild Eye Releasing, he decided that, hey, it's okay now at this juncture to release it under the LA Age Jabber. Now it's more of kind of like a whoa, that was a time in history. But my whole purpose for making that was to be controversial, but also to bring attention to the fact that anybody could get AIDS. Because my main character was a 16-year-old white kid that wasn't gay. And back then, I can tell you, if you were watching what was going on, the fingers were being pointed left and right at anybody that had different sexual proclivity, and I didn't want to exploit that. I just wanted to bring out into the thing, anybody can have this, anybody can get this, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get it from a blood transfusion, but I wanted to do it in a way that hopefully would shock people so that I could make sales, but at the same time get noticed and impart some good information as well. So, there's on my part, there was a little bit of greed, wanting to get my career going in some way, but at the same time, I figured if I was going to do something, why not do something controversial and something that might make people think a little more than just pointing fingers. So that's the story behind that.
Jerry, can you take this comment, sir? Or I should ask you if you could read the comments first.
It says a director like you is absolutely awesome.
Absolutely.
Makes it fun to work with. In my opinion, it comes across better with the acting. Well, thank you. That's a very nice compliment, Sean. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
So wait, the
Go ahead.
LA, did the first one come out on VHS
Yes.
as LA
Yes. No. First one came out as Jabber. I had the box
Jabber?
made with Jabber because I was, as I say, I was concerned about releasing it under LA Age Jabber because I was afraid.
So were they released as LA?
No, they were released as Jabber.
But they were never released as okay. A re-release was made.
A re-release was done with LA Age Jabber, which was the original title I was going to go with.
Because I'm sure collectors would be searching for LA for VHS, and
yeah, everybody wants Jabber, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and not only that, I'm not 100% sure if on the original video that the titles that were put on when I found somebody to edit it, if it was LA Age Jabber or just Jabber. It could have been LA Age Jabber, but maybe just released in the box under Jabber. I'm not sure on that, but the good thing is
that's interesting.
Well, you see, you got to understand, I didn't have much money. I paid $600 to have that thing edited, and I had to save enough money to actually have that done. And I found a guy who was an editor, a real true-to-life editor that edited TV shows, and he didn't use his real name when he edited my thing because he was part of the union and he didn't want to have any problems, and so he used a false name on that, and but he did a reasonably good job considering what he had to work with. So that film was shot on SVHS, VHS, and also 3/4-inch tape.
Nice.
3 types of tape the movie was made on. Jabber originally.
That's intriguing.
So quite a conglomeration, and that's because I had a little more money near the end of the making of that movie, where I was able. Here's what happened: somebody hit me in the rear in my car, damaged the car, and the car was totaled. But I had a second car that I could drive. So because the car was totaled, I think I made $3,000 or $4,000. So I was still in the middle of shooting Jabber on weekends. So I decided to take that money, go out and buy an old tube camera with a big deck, a Sony, and then the end of the movie was basically shot 3/4. So get a little better quality near the end there. Interesting stuff.
We have another picture here from Jabber.
Okay.
It's the one on the couch there, Joe.
Oh yeah. Great actor, Jason.
This is the gentleman that you used as your main.
Yeah, what a talent he is. I tell you, he's just a remarkable young man, and just did a marvelous job. He didn't really require any direction. He basically made that movie his own, and he incorporated a lot of things that were not in the script, and it worked. And that's a classic example of a young actor that had tremendous talent and was able to put it to use. So yeah, I'm very blessed to have him. And he had a past history. I believe he was in a couple of shows, 90210 and some other stuff. So he'd done some professional stuff. So I was very lucky to have him.
Oh yeah, you can tell when the actors are hungry or they're not hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. We also had another situation. I think I may have explained this before. There was a situation where you see a second detective come in to the movie midway through.
Right.
And people sometimes scratch their head and say, well, what happened here? Where did the one guy go? Well, what happened is the one guy, because of was doing well, but he was having a problem showing up for whatever reasons. He couldn't make the calls, and here I had these group of actors together on weekends, and he was an integral part of the thing because he was the policeman partner of Marcy Lynn, who played the female lead there as a policewoman rather. And so it went on 3 or 4 times, and then finally I had to say, look, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore because these other people are waiting and we're waiting, and none of us have any real time and extra money to do anything. So at that point in time, somebody in the cast suggested, I think it may have been Joy Urata, who was the woman that played the female reporter, said that she had a friend that could replace. So I had to think of something quick on my feet. So I'm saying, how can I get one cop out of here, one detective out, and bring another one in? Well, I thought, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend like that first cop was killed in an accident on his way home in a car. And the captain then, the guy who was killed, his boss, comes with the new detective, knocks on our female detective's door at 3 o'clock in the morning and announces to her, look, I'm sorry, your partner's been killed, but this new guy will be standing in to help you. So the new detective then slides in, and then things go from there. And I don't know if that was a seamless transition,
on
but
your feet there.
it was the only thing I could think of. Yeah.
Sure.
But the original guy, Tony Donangelo, he was a wonderful actor too. I mean, it just sometimes people's life gets in the way, and they can't finish what they start, and that's okay. But he was a good integral part and did, I think, a wonderful job in the movie.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on,
Sure.
especially with Jerry being a collector.
Mhm.
So, and this is for the audience as well, physical media or digital media. All right. So let me explain something first. About 10 years or so ago, I sold all my physical media. I downloaded everything first on like a whatever terabyte drive. And I'm going to have to keep transferring it because that drive's going to die one day. But anyway,
You're playing that game. Yep.
I sold them while I thought they had value, but now I'm kicking myself in the ass because they're obviously more valuable 10 years
more
later, now that physical is coming back to collecting. So everybody out in the audience, tell us if you have a huge collection or if you have a hard drive. Let us know. Drew, what is your opinion on this?
Of both?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I really have an opinion. What I do is when I want to watch something, I'll go to the local library and I will not rent, but take out DVDs. And it's a simple process. You don't have to worry about tape breaking. It's quite often it's a Blu-ray. It's you can get multiple times playing, whereas tape degenerates over time. But there is something special about a videotape VHS movie, just like there was when they made record albums with vinyl and plastic, which are now coming back, by the way.
Oh yeah,
so
big time.
So for the real aficionado of the original unadulterated type of stuff that with flaws and all, without all the digital editing and all the rest of the stuff built in that you would find on a DVD, it's great for collectors, and I think that whatever floats your boat. So for me, since I really don't own much in the way of DVDs, I just, as I say, I will get from the library and watch, and so that's basically how I work. So yeah.
All right, we got a couple of comments here. We have Ken saying, I had how many? 4,500 physical DVDs? Then I had 14,000 on my hard drive.
Oh, that's great. And on that hard drive, it will be perpetual for lifetimes. His family and relatives and can watch those years from now,
Oh, absolutely. We got JW from Loud and Nerdy who just saw Superman. The world is not ready for Superman. Fair enough. Sean Smithson. I have a serious problem. I buy 2 physical copies, one to watch and one stays sealed, and I buy digital too.
Smart man. That's good, because that's thinking a little bit ahead of the curve, that there would be some potential for investment there. No, that's smart.
56 terabytes? Holy cow, Ken.
It's a lot. Ken's like a collecting machine there.
Do you know on this phone that I'm communicating with you with, it's an iPhone 14 Pro Max. I have it specifically with a terabyte of storage, and I was playing with the idea when I got it 2-3 years ago of shooting a movie with an iPhone, which I know you can do. It's got a cinematic mode. Obviously it's not going to be worthy of a theatrical release, but you could do something. And I encourage anybody out there who has the inclination and they want to make a movie, there's nothing holding you back. If you can't write a script, you find somebody that can, that you collaborate with. If you don't have tech people, you can go to college situations where there are many people in the media department that would just love the opportunity to come out and get a credit for being on a thing. Most actors will work for just the recognition itself, if not, for a little bit of payment. And there's nothing holding you back. I mean, we live, thank goodness, if all these venues were open to me way back in the day in 90 or 91, whenever I shot this thing and released it in 92 or 93 or whatever, then, it would have been so much nicer. But back then they didn't. You had to, and you're even lucky back then if you could produce something to put out on home video. But now it's open. So I encourage anybody that get yourself an iPhone, whatever. It doesn't matter. You just go out. The fact that you're actually doing it, that'll parlay itself into something else, and it will lead to success.
It's very much the same what you just said. Me playing in a band for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 27 years ago, we didn't have all of this. So,
of course, right.
If we had it back then, who knows? It may have been a different scenario.
Absolutely.
Right?
So at least in this particular venue in which you guys are in, it affords people that are young and want to get into the business, and they can start out with a channel like this. And I mean, this is a great channel. You guys do justice for a lot of different projects and people. So you're to be commended for that. So yeah.
And me, obviously I collect, the physical media. I also have digital media too, because it's very easy to just do this with your remote sometimes rather than hunting things down. But also, I mean, with these, I have beta tapes here, laser discs. The tapes, like you said, they start to degenerate after a while. I certainly don't want to put a perfectly good tape in a machine and it gets destroyed.
Well, isn't there a big movement now to, aren't they making quite a bit of VHS tape, not tape, but the actual tape players now? And there's a big demand for those for collectors, I guess.
I'm not sure.
See, I don't know. I haven't had a VCR in 2013.
Yeah,
I know turntables are back for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen them,
but I mean, DVDs are coming back. DVD players.
Oh, and by the way, before I forget, I'm going to shamelessly say one of the areas that I'm able to promote this is on Facebook, my social media stuff. So if anybody is interested in a copy, I have a few copies left. I don't have many. I can personally autograph it for you, or whatever you need me to do. And it comes with stickers, and it also has the original box cover art for the VHS in there as well, which is kind of cool.
That is amazing.
So anybody that wants something like that, reach out to me on my Facebook page, and we can, we'll figure out something, because I don't have much of it left, but there is something nice to own something that, if the author put something nice with it, you know what I'm saying? So.
Oh, absolutely.
And where did that cover art come from?
Not from me.
The cover art.
The original jabber came from me. I worked with a graphic artist, but I have to give credit to Rob Housechild at Wild Eye Media, release company, for coming up with the box art and the actual insert stuff, because he's he really knows his stuff when it comes to that, and has a good talent for picking people to do that. So he was right on the money there, I think, for doing that. So yeah.
Right. I can't. That's like something that's an allure, right? Yes. I mean, back when I was a kid watching these movies, and I'm going to the video store, you're looking for a cover like that, and it's like, I need this movie.
Something that pops. Something that pops.
I mean, that's part of the allure, right?
Yeah, yeah. With the original VHS cover, I wanted something that would pop. So what I did is, back then things were kind of primitive. So what I did is I asked the graphic guy if he would mind. These are my eyes here, and I said, let's put some glass there with my looking, and you put the LA area behind, which you can't see on here, and it says Jeff has just contacted a fatal disease, but he's a very giving person. Now all of his friends have it. So I mean, that's but I think the original cover popped in video stores, and that's why it was pretty successful there. So anyway, yeah.
I got to hit on a couple of the comments real fast. JW says 300 Blu-rays, 4K and DVD, also over 700 on drive. And then Ken said, I have about 1,000 VHS, and yes, the machine started eating the tapes. In certain areas,
That's
you got
what
to
I'm
be,
worried
you got to be worried about what, humidity, mold, and
Mm-hmm. And I think you're supposed to store your VHS if not in a horizontal but in a vertical position, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I've heard as well. Yes,
in a plastic bag or something that doesn't.
These
conduct.
racks here came from that we had in Scranton. It went out of business, and I went and bought the racks because I had all of these in totes at one time, and of course, I wanted to display them.
Jerry, you like Max Hedstrom for a moment. Where did you get the racks?
I got them at Blockbuster.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we had a local Blockbuster in West Scranton that went out of business. And of course, all the movies were gone like this, but I went in there for the racks.
Wow.
And I got a great deal on them. And because I had so many things in my collection, and I just wanted to display them. They're not in any sort of order. The DVDs are up top. The rest are VHS. I got betas on the bottom. There's just over here on the side. I basically don't have enough racks for the movies I have, but I display the ones that I like.
So what I'm curious about now is like VHS grading. They have comic book gradings. They have action figure or toy gradings. Jerry, do you have any VHSs or DVDs that are graded?
No.
And is it worth? Do you think it's worth doing?
I think it is. It probably is worth doing, but I tell like the wife and the kids, my collection's here. When I'm gone, do what you want with it, but please look it all up first.
Right.
Get to it.
Don't sell them for a quarter a piece, please.
You never know.
Well,
you never know. I mean, look,
big is
like Jabber's coming back, right? It came back. When was it re-released? It was 2022, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
It got re-released, and now that people are going to want that. So
my question is,
right?
I think that I don't know how much the demand is for original VHS stuff. I mean, I don't know. I guess there are collectors out there, but
it's getting big.
It seems
bigger
to me like
every day.
Seems to me like the forefront of people still.
I look on YouTube sometimes. I'll type in a movie that I have and see just to see how it's doing. And there's a couple here that I've seen go pretty well. Now there's an asking price on eBay, but there's also a bidding war. And I look for the bidding war ones. I'm like, well, that movie just went for $200 and I have it sitting right here on this shelf.
Do you want to hear a funny story? You want to hear a funny story? Back around, I think it was 2020 or 2021. I believe that's when the majority of the video stores were gone at that point in time. And there were people that were eliminating their inventory, and they were putting their VHS tapes from the stores actually online on eBay and places like that, and Amazon, and people were buying them up, and old titles and stuff. And I'm sure some of those were collector items. So, yep, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Most expensive VHS tape, Star Wars: A New Hope, $114,000.
Wow.
I remember.
What's the average popular title on VHS going for? I mean, if it's a vintage title, what would it? $100, $50?
Well, when I'm looking at hoarder stuff, I guess it really depends. A lot of the rare stuff goes for more.
Okay.
If you have a common like Child's Play, say, I could see my buddy Chucky back here, but a movie like Child's Play is all over the place. But then there's a movie that's called, the title's 555, and it's super rare, and that's, collectors have their eye on it. They want it. Mm-hmm. So I guess it really depends. Or if a movie's remade, sometimes they'll go back.
Speaking of boxes, I have an original box here. I have an original box here, by the way, from the 91 release, and can you see this?
Yes.
Bring it back to you a little. There you go.
Okay.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's the one with the buildings in the background that you couldn't see on the insert of the actual Blu-ray.
Oh,
and
LA.
What's on the back?
What's on the back is more cityscape.
Nice.
I have a story for you regarding this movie. A really interesting thing. One of the shots we did is we did an aerial shot, meaning high up on a building. It was like a 360 in Jabber, LAH Jabber. I'm not sure where that is in there, but this was the time that I had that big Sony camera, and I was actually shooting that myself, and I had this big heavy deck with a long cord, and the security people were nice enough in this high-rise building to let us in. We told them we were shooting a movie. We told them we told them we were shooting something for CNN. We kind of fibbed a bit, right? So they were nice enough to take us up there, because they thought, hey, this is, exciting. And so we went up to the top. It was a windy night, and I think it was about a 35-story building in LA, which was quite tall. And we're up there on the heliport, and the wind is howling like crazy. And in order to get a shot of what I wanted to get, I had to get almost right up to the edge, and I lost my footing. And thank God that the guy behind me who was holding the deck was able to catch me. Otherwise, that might have been it. So, but talk about, what you do sometimes to get a shot. We were running around.
That CNN guy almost fell.
Yeah, we were running around at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. We had weapons. Mind you, the weapons weren't loaded, but they were guns. And these guys that were playing the cops on this thing, we were taking a big chance. If we'd been stopped, that, not only would there have been some problems, but I probably would have been arrested and God knows what, But,
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so we got lucky. We were able to make it and whatever.
So Drew, I gotta
take
wait, hold on 1 second. I gotta interrupt. I'm sorry because Ken just made a comment. Drew, check this out. Does that surprise you?
On eBay, not sure exactly what copy. What does that mean? That means it's selling.
What copy is going for $1,000?
There is a copy there. Is that what you're saying?
That is going for $1,000. Well, they're asking $1,000 on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does. And that's probably one of the original ones. Yeah, that's I guess there's money involved there. Hey, where's my cut?
Cult status. Right?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if it's reaching cult status. All I can do is I can lay claim to the fact that it was very controversial. And I'm lucky because I had no pushback from any groups that were getting AIDS in great numbers. Like, the gay community, and never had pushback from them. Never had pushback from people that were drug users and might have contracted the virus through using needles or anything like that. So, and I think what I credit for that is the fact that I wasn't interested in putting anybody down. That was not my thing. I was interested in being controversial, trying to get my name on the, out there, but not at the expense of hurting anybody. And I think that's something that I'm lucky because there's been nothing that came back to haunt me at all in that sense. So, again, I preface everything by saying it's not an Academy Award winner, but it is a movie, and it's an effort of trying to convey, a message, and hopefully there's a little bit of entertainment in there, for people. So,
we got a comment from J.W. Colwell from Loud and Nerdy and Generation Movie. Drew, when making Blood Diner, did you know how crazy it was while filming?
I think when you're in the middle of it, you're more focused on trying to do what you need to do to contribute to that movie. That I think that the time for, at least in my case, for sitting down and being introspective and saying, God, this is really off the charts and stuff. I don't think in my case it was. I'm not saying that other actors maybe didn't feel the same way. I know Jackie Kong was probably well ahead of the curve thinking about, how things were going together. And she was probably keeping track in her mind, well, this works and that doesn't. For instance, I'll tell you this story again. This is a very interesting story about Blood Diner. I remember Jackie was very professional and very nice to me, and said to me, look, we have a door here that you need to break through with an axe in one of the opening scenes. And we have one door, it's a balsa wood door, and we don't have the budget, because I believe it was $400,000 for the movie. We don't have the budget or the time to get another door made. So we need you to hit this door perfectly, otherwise it's not going to happen, And then you break through the door, fall on your knees. Yeah. Well, you know what? It worked great. And I guess the point being that she knew what she wanted. I knew what I needed to do. So there was no time to focus on thinking, oh boy, and I didn't even really know until I broke through that door what I was going to do with those two kids that played nephews. I mean, I knew I was going to move those amulets in front of their face, but I didn't know I was going to fall to my knees and sing to them. But that's just something that I ran with it and it went. So I guess for me personally, to answer your question, no, I wasn't thinking how crazy it was, but in retrospect, it was a well-made movie. I mean, a movie for $400,000 that she did, it's like, a $40 million movie. I mean, it was that well put together and edited and, so forth and so on. So big shout out.
But you definitely nailed that role. I mean, even that part, because it just shows how nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. There was that was very interesting. As a matter of fact, I still have one of the shirts from that thing with the blood on it and the tie. I was thinking of maybe putting that up for auction or something. I don't know, or doing something.
Other collector item.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I have to be careful with those things because that's Lionsgate, and you don't want to,
Sure.
get involved in there. So yeah.
Do you do any conventions or?
I'm sorry.
True.
I've only done.
You go to any conventions?
I haven't, and if anybody knows any contacts out there that could steer me towards doing something like that, I'd be most grateful because
film festivals also.
Haven't done, no, and I would, don't even really know where to begin with that, but that's something I would welcome if somebody had information to shoot it my way, send me a message on Facebook or, so forth, and yeah, that would be great.
Oh, that's a missed opportunity, man.
Out here.
Yeah, I basically have not pursued that stuff, and I suppose I should, because, yeah, why not? Listen, it's you don't get any younger, right?
I come and see you.
And meet the fans and have them tell stories of how your movies impacted them and TV shows and
I have lots of stories, lots of
probably
stories
a lot more people than you realize.
Yeah, I've got some interesting stories. I have one where I won't tell you who the name was, but on one particular shoot, this is a well-known actress, and I was sitting outside of a set, just right outside where they were shooting, and I was talking with another actor, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. We were waiting for our scenes, and in comes this beautiful young actress who was walking down the hallway, and obviously very well known. She'd done a lot of stuff before, and as she gets closer, I start to recognize her, and I'm saying to myself, "Wow, this is fantastic." And she comes and she sits down next to me. Now, the guy sitting next to me, obviously, I didn't know till later, but he had heard about her or had some type of exposure to what she's like or whatever. But she sits down next to me and starts to talk me up. So, I was, interested because, I figured there might be a bonus to the, doing this part, shall we say. And, I was really beginning to think this after about 10 or 15 minutes. And then she got up and excused herself, maybe ostensibly the women's restroom or whatever. And the guy next to me, the other actor, turned to me and said, if I were you, I would skedaddle. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, she likes to play guys like this. And she's got a boyfriend who's a real brute. And the last guy that was doing this, he ended up with, some bad physical stuff going on to him. And that you could potentially, but she does it to get him angry kind of a thing, or to, the word would get back to him that she was messing around or doing whatever. So I skedaddled pretty quickly, and I made myself scarce, till the call to do my little thing. So that's kind of an interesting story. But
it's like Evil Spawn almost.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit like that. But yeah, Evil Spawn was a very interesting movie to make, and yeah. But it's not that movie. It's a different one, and so I won't tell you the name, but we'll just keep that up in the air, speculation wise. So yeah, had some real fun, guys. In those times because anything could happen, anything and anything, and that's what makes it so interesting. I mean, I'll tell you an interesting story. Do you know who Fred Dryer is? The guy that played Hunter? Very nice man. Do you know, I have a piece of trivia for you. Do you know, I think, and I don't want to demean anybody, but I think he's very tall. He was a former football player, if I'm not mistaken. And he used to wear these long sport coats that covered his rear end. Do you know why? Because he doesn't have much of a rear end. That's why. Like
I suffer from the same thing. It's called no acetol.
Right. No, there we go. And so
I'm there too. I think
that's the reason. That's the reason. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's the reason. And when he took his coat off in one of the, during one of the breaks, it was obvious that interesting. So kind of little stuff like that. You remember that stuff, Anyway, so, yeah.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but we're at the end, and we got to end it because we got to keep them coming back for more, Drew.
Great. Do you know how many people came on this site?
We're still live.
Oh, we are. No, but so you don't know. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, but anybody that desires, again, and I'm going to be shameless, if you are interested, I just have a very, very few copies of the most recent release. If you have interest in having a signed copy from me, please reach out to me on Facebook, and I'll be more than delighted to communicate with you and give you a good deal.
Fantastic.
All right, and Drew,
it was great talking
website,
to you. Your wealth of knowledge.
Website, social medias, where can they find you?
I'm not really on social media.
Okay.
I do have an Instagram thing, but I don't really touch base with that. I think the best place to reach out to me would be on Facebook.
So if they're interested in your merchandise,
and it's a public site, so you can just, you don't have to be a friend to go on to see what nonsense I'm up to. You can just go on. And, but anyway, it's always a pleasure again, guys, and I thank you for taking the time and the effort to invite me, because
thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Yes. And JW, who works on Loud and Nerdy and Generation Movie, he's kind of upset that he wasn't here tonight to talk to you. So we're gonna have to have you on again, if you don't mind, in the future.
I don't mind at all. I don't mind at all. And it's I consider it an honor to be asked to speak anywhere. I'm not ashamed to come on at a drop of a hat. So if you need me, feel free to reach out.
Well, I think the honors.
Thank you. Very nice.
Definitely. Great. Drew, I'm going to drop you down for a moment. Right. If you can wait just a couple of moments for us to close out, I'd love to speak to you.
No worries. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
You.
Good night.
Oh, sorry. Man, that was amazing.
Awesome.
I mean, I
great career. Great story.
I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're new to joining us, please go to our socials, give us a like and follow. Doesn't cost you a thing, means the world to us. Only takes a few seconds to do. We greatly appreciate it. Jerry, you got something coming up. Did you send me a picture or no?
No, but
oh, okay. Well, I'm going to give you full screen.
July 19th at the V Spot in Scranton.
That's
it's
it.
Be us, 40-watt idiots, and Drowning Kelly.
Nice.
Providence Ave, Scranton.
All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, again, we appreciate you joining us, and we thank our guest again, the amazing Drew Godderis. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening and a great week.
Good night. Sleep tight.